We are here. Welcome to the Creator Economy. The Creator Economy is our brand new show. It's a weekly news show on everything happening in the creator economy. We'll be trying to giving you like sort of a roundup of the latest news, some commentary from us, and of course, some interviews and deep dives on key topics in the creator economy. We go live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. What's that? 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Eastern time, right?
Yep.
And 2 p.m. Pacific time. And so you can find out more about us over at created.show. It's the official show page and show notes for this show. We are streaming right now live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Clubhouse, and Twitter Spaces. So pick your poison wherever may be the most interesting or appropriate place for you. If you want to take a look at our ugly mugs, feel free to join on video. If you're happy with listening, then we encourage you to stay tuned in on one of our audio streams. So we also are posting longer form content and notes over at our website. So if you head over to createdeconomy.com, that is our website, our blog, as you may say these days, right? Do people use the word blog anymore, Ken?
I don't know. It's these young kids. You know, it's like if it's not ephemeral, it's not 15 seconds. They're not going to pay attention.
Exactly. So thank you for joining us. This is our first episode. We've been talking about this show. We actually, when did I ping you, Ken? Friday?
Yeah. I mean, talk about
I forgot to hit record, so now I hit record.
This is going swimmingly.
The video is recording. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, good. No, yeah. I think this was talking about agile podcasting, right? I mean, you pinged me I think it was right before the weekend. Like, hey, you want to do a show? And I'm like, sure, why not, right? And I was thinking, oh, this takes a little bit of time. We're going to start to plan these things out. And then you're like, oh, well, our first show will be this Wednesday. I'm like, excuse me, that's pretty fast. And I mean, might as well, right? It's like, just dive feet first into the fire and see how it goes.
Absolutely. Well, by the way, if you're out there watching in the video, I see some of you out there, please tell us where you're coming from in the comments. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, by all means, we encourage you to leave those in the comments as well. Let's do some quick intros, just so you know who you're talking to or you're listening to. I'm Greg Narain. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been involved in the creator economy since 2006 or something like that. I was the first employee at Clout. I then went on to start my Y Combinator company, Shoot, where we helped brands work with creators and their fans to leverage user-generated content. And now I'm the co-founder of a company called Zealous, which is helping live streamers actually create revenue streams out of their live content. And I'll pass to my friend Ken to introduce himself.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. So I'm Ken Yeung. I am currently the technology editor at Flipboard, a content and curation discovery app. Currently, what I basically do is pay attention to what's going on in the world of tech. That includes internet culture, memes, social media, everything that everyone loves to complain about. And previously, I was a reporter for VentureBeat and The Next Web, where I covered every aspect of tech you can possibly think about, whether it's the rise of the big tech giants or the latest startups that are working on stickers for apps, ephemeral messaging, social audio, or whatever else, IoT type stuff and venture capital. So I've kind of been in this space for many years. I started writing from my own blog back in I guess before 2000s, and currently am still doing that. And now I'm kind of into the swing of things and hoping to talk to Greg more about what's going on in the creator space.
Absolutely. And we've both been creators in one form or another. Ken's also a photographer. I don't think you mentioned that. So yeah, we've been doing this for quite some time. So let's talk a little bit about the format here and how we're going to be doing this and producing this content actually. So our goal with the show is to sort of have, kind of two major parts to it every week. The first part is we'll be collecting and finding interesting news from the space. And so we'll be trying to, give you some themes and to bring together some of that story about what's happening in the creator space. And then the second half, we'll be bringing in entrepreneurs, creators to come with us and actually talk and take a deeper dive into different parts of, what's going on in the creator economy. Today, we'll be talking in the second half about social tipping. I did a long form or a tweet storm and then some other posts about that earlier. And we have our friend Bart Melton here to also share and add to the conversation. So Ken, why don't we jump right into it?
Sounds good. So I guess when we're talking about this whole show is all about the creator economy, and it's very fascinating in terms of why, like, what is the appeal for like, you can be it's easy for anyone to be a creator these days, but it's also like, but how do you, why is it appealing for platforms such as Substack or Clubhouse or Twitch or YouTube to kind of go further into attracting these creators, right? I mean, it kind of seemed like, yeah, like YouTube pioneered this back in the day, right? And when they first launched, they had this whole creator community, and now everybody's doing it. Like immediately, one of the first strategies when you launch a social platform of some sort is that you immediately have to do some sort of a fund to, or some sort of incentive to appeal to creators, and it's almost like you're bribing people to come on board. Like, Greg, what are you seeing in terms of that? Like, is that kind of the new MO for tech companies as part of their marketing and their strategy?
It's a great question, Ken. And this week we saw YouTube launched a new fund for their shorts, which is sort of their competitor, I guess, to TikTok to some degree, right? And I think it's a little bit twofold, right? I think some of it is defensive, right? Like in the sense that the platforms that are offering the best monetization pathways for creators ultimately will draw more creators to them. And so what I think is happening is that platforms are realizing that, hey, there's a chance or a risk of our creators churning off platform if we don't provide them like the proper pathways or opportunities for monetization, right? And look, I'll be the optimist, even though I know that this probably isn't really there. But maybe some part of them realize that after all those years of kind of not really paying creators, but using and leveraging them in all these interesting ways, is that they're now sort of starting to drive towards sort of like saying, how can we balance this equation a little bit better? Right now, obviously, this is not a lot, and by the way, as every platform tends to launch new capabilities. Say when LinkedIn launched LinkedIn Live or when YouTube is launching Shorts, the algorithms tend to sort this kind of content to the top, right? Like they want to increase the usage of that content. They want to make sure that these new features get utilized. So you'll see them sort of incentivize it. And I think so. There's on one side, the consumption side, the algorithmic side is actually driving that content to the top of the list. But at the same time, these funds, it seems, are often a way of inspiring, creators to say, how can I go leverage or experiment with this format, this content type, right? So as a way to get going, right? So,
right. And another way to think about it is you look at, it could also be a way to encourage different types of creators, right? I think it's easy to have like, hey, I'm going to create $100 million fund to just get creators. It's like a catch-all type of fund, right? But then at the same time, you look at what Facebook's doing. It's like they have a $25 million fund, or they had one that's focused on encouraging Black creators, right? And so you can get a little bit more diverse. You can get more diversity, which is very well needed in terms of tech. You can get more inclusivity, and it helps these companies better to build better tools and services that are going to be available to everyone, instead of eventually hearing like how there's all this criticism around whether it's too racist or it's racist in general, or there's a lot of hate speech or whatever. It's like, it's just not a welcoming place anymore. So hopefully this will help curb that. And I think what's interesting, I mean, money is always the ultimate cudgel that these companies can put out there, right? Especially if you are a big platform. I mean, it's going to be very hard for like if Twitter did a $10 million fund, for example, for creator fund for like review, could Substack necessarily come up with that equal amount to kind of balance the scales? Probably not right now. So there's like, it's a heavy thing. But I think for smaller companies, these funds can be very encouraging to at least get on board people and then kind of encourage them to experiment with their platforms, and then teach these companies how to better use, like how they're, the potential for what could happen in a product roadmap, right? And who knows? I mean, it seems like it's got to be a thing. It's like, as soon as you raise money, right, for your company, like part of that has to be allocated towards like creators, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, creators win out either way. I mean, they're like, hey, we're getting money from Substack, we're getting money from TikTok and YouTube and Clubhouse, but it's like, I guess at that some point it's like money is money. What's stopping are there exclusive deals as a result of that as well? So I don't know. I mean, I think I would say it's as cliche as it sounds. It's too early to tell in terms of these funds. I'm kind of fascinated that how these tech platforms are basically becoming creator VCs or creator capitalists, as it were, like and investing in these creators. So like money's trickling downstream from investors to companies to slash startups to the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's certainly a good amount of money, I think, being spent in this universe, and I think, like, let's remember what it's for. It is to incentivize behavior, right? These funds, for the large part. Now some of them I do maybe may believe in the creator economy. Zuckerberg was just out recently saying, going on about like all the new ways that Instagram is going to be offering new ways for creators to monetize, which is, I think, laughable considering that, Instagram has been around for 12 years and has paid $0 to creators so far. Right. So, keep an eye out. We think this is an interesting thing. We'll see more of these funds, Substack, YouTube, Clubhouse. Everybody's got sort of some way of supporting or paying the creator community now to sort of like do more of the things that they're hoping they would do. Right. Let's move to our second topic, though. And just as a quick reset, hey, everyone, here we are in the Created Economy podcast, stream, show. I don't know what the right word is for this, but we are on Clubhouse, we're on Twitch, we're all over the place right now. Leave us a comment and let us know where you're from. Invite some friends in if you would like them to join the conversation. We are going to go to our second topic, though, which is actually related to Clubhouse. And the question here is, can Clubhouse stay on top even when the big companies are coming after it? So, Ken, we saw this huge trend. After the second, like, Clubhouse raised its first little bit of money, everyone else sort of like announced instantly like that they were going to have social audio features added into their ecosystem. So I'm curious, like, what do you think? Like, do you think Clubhouse can make it? I'm a fairly avid daily user of Clubhouse. You are more like increasingly becoming one, I think, now that you have it. It's on Android, but what do you think? What is your read on this?
So you're right, and like once it hit Android, like I was like, oh, I've started to see a lot more usage of it. Like previously, I've been on, I use Clubhouse on my iPad. It's the only thing I could iOS device that would support it. I don't have an iPhone, and it just wasn't intuitive enough for me on my iPad, right? I think for me that it was the device that kind of was the obstacle that caused that friction. It's like, no, I don't really want to lug around my iPad from my desk here to my living room to whatever, and plus I can't use it outside of my home without Wi-Fi. So now I'm using it on my Android device. It's like I'm using it more, not necessarily like I'm always on it like many people that we know, but it's like, all right, let's see what once in a while, let's see what's going on there. But I think the question is, like, when you look at what Twitter Spaces is out there, which we are broadcasting on as well. Discord has one, Facebook's toying with one. I think they're starting to test one out. Spotify, and a whole bunch of ones. I'm surprised like Google or YouTube didn't announce one this week at Google I/O and just call it like Buzz or something, like bring back that brand.
I think they tried that one before already.
but I think the thing here is, like, we've seen the reports that Clubhouse's usage numbers or downloads has gone down in the past couple months, right?
Precipitously, right? Like,
by third-party data, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay, I can see why, because everyone's like, oh, now you see it on Twitter. I think it's all where your base application is, right? If I'm always on Twitter, if I'm always on Facebook, or I'm always on YouTube or Instagram, it's easy just to be on one single app as opposed to, oh, let me jump to Clubhouse, let me jump to this and this and this, right? It's like I think people prefer to have like one app that kind of does it all, where there's a lot more of this cohesive type of strategy. And at one point, you look at what you between Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse is where's the brand safety, where for advertisers, those type of things. But it's also, where's your audience going to be? Like, if I've taken a lot of effort to curate an audience, a fan base on Twitter, right? I'm coming on to Clubhouse. There's no guarantee that I'm going to necessarily garner that same type of following, right? It took me many years to do that, to get 17,000 people to follow me on Twitter. I'm actually surprised that's that high. But it's like on Clubhouse, I have just over 1,000.
There's a lot of Russian bots out there.
That's very true. I'm pretty sure I'm being one big phishing scam. It's like, really, you want to come after me? Like, okay. No, so I think with what Twitter offers there, it's like, I think Clubhouse is all about the social audio, but Twitter is all about a lot more things. It's not just, I mean, it was fundamentally about the tweets. Then it started becoming about like, hey, how else can we define what a quote unquote tweet is? And it's like, okay, there's audio part of it, there's a video part of it, there's a photo part of it. Now there's a newsletter part of it, right? It's like there's this redefinition of what Twitter is. And then you look at what Discord is. It's like, oh, it's an adjacency for a lot of these companies, right? And Slack is toying with one of like doing some sort of an audio, like a Clubhouse type of thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, but it's, you don't see that as like, hey, this is like a big product announcement where you're like, hey, we're announcing this new service or whatever. It's almost like it's second nature to what these platforms' core product is. So I think I don't think it's a lose situation for big tech. They're like, okay, if it doesn't work.
Do you think Clubhouse survives? I guess
I think Clubhouse survives. I think it survives. I think if it plays its cards right, it could be almost like SoundCloud is. And of course, we know SoundCloud has had some issues in terms of remaining relevant amongst everybody, amongst the big players like Spotify and everything like that. But at some point, if they play their cards right and they start to build more, I think they have a good chance of kind of eventually becoming maybe like a YouTube of social audio, or at the very least, maybe, I don't know, like a Vimeo of social audio. So it's kind of like it's still relevant and it's still hard to kill.
Yeah,
it's still very vulnerable now, but I think there's still some traction.
I've actually always imagined Clubhouse's destiny sort of more akin to SiriusXM or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like sort of like this new hybrid space between static podcasts and sort of real time sort of like, programming. And I think like what I see in Clubhouse is sort of the elevation of, hundreds of tens of thousands at least, right, of like really interesting, say, domain experts in various topics, where previously you might not have ever been able to like get a contract, say, with Sirius, right? And of course, like they would be paying you. But where now people are saying, I'm gonna opt into paying. I'm gonna spend my time to produce this content, and the bars are really low, right? Like to become a creator in Clubhouse. Mm-hmm. But what you can do is build a following. You can monetize it, which seems like the normative sort of behavior in sort of the general creator economy as we're moving into like sort of this next generation of creator economies, where my audience can lift me up, and I don't need to rely on a platform to provide that like sort of sustainability to me. And so I think like what we see in Clubhouse, for example, is an opportunity for lots of people who previously didn't have a voice, right? Or say not necessarily a voice, but a platform for expressing it. Mm-hmm. Maybe because of like, they didn't have an existing audience to tap into. They didn't have maybe the technical skills or tools of production, right? And they didn't have the ease of participation for third parties, right? And so, like for example, I went from like 0 followers in Clubhouse at end of September and to like almost 13,000, right? Mm-hmm. And that was just by doing sort of like daily content, right? And so I also believe Clubhouse can survive, but I think like that survivability is sort of like, is as you sort of mentioned, as a sort of an independent content platform, because I believe they will likely be one of the few that is focused only on audio, right?
Right. And I think, and if you look at these big platforms, they have a lot of their own problems to deal with, right? And so their focus won't entirely be on social audio, right? You look at Facebook, they got plenty of antitrust issues to deal with, and they're all focused on like VR, they're focused on Messenger, they're focused on Instagram, they're focused on Facebook, they're focusing on ads and their own content moderation issues. You look at Google and YouTube, like they got their own issues, a whole set of problems and concerns they got in their roadmap. So I think with Clubhouse is like, look, let them all try and figure out what the hell they're doing, and sort everything out while we're just going to run our race. And it's like, look, our bread and butter, our focus is always going to be on audio, on social audio. And you're right. And if we can kind of stay that path and fix our own problems and not overextend ourselves, I think it's fine, right? Because again, as I said earlier, it's like a lot for big companies. This is more like an afterthought, and it's like, oh, okay, it's a nice to have, so we'll throw it in there, and if it works, it works. But we're not going to necessarily ramp up a giant team and put hundreds of millions of dollars into this. This is not going to be a giant, a profit loss type of situation for them. But I think with Clubhouse, it's like you're right. It's like you look at all the stuff that you have, it's a lot easier to set up your own room. And you look at the success of what Anchor did back in the day, right? It's like it made it easier just to create your own podcast, right? A lot of these things are all about those type of capabilities. So I think it'll be worth watching. I don't see Clubhouse going away in the near future.
They certainly have enough funding to
well, in addition to that, yes. Yeah.
By the way, just for everyone listening, thank you so much. We appreciate it for you being here. Feel free to leave comments if you're watching by video. Feel free to raise your hands on the audio platforms, and we will figure out a way to bring you on stage and integrate you. Just be aware that we are recording, so we want to make sure that everyone's okay with that. All right, Ken. So the last topic we had for today, and by the way, folks, in case you're looking for the news, I did tweet out. I sent a link out to it. We have a Flipboard account over at the Created Economy. And in case you wanted, if you're watching, I'm going to flash. Oh, gee, there's so many pieces to move in a live stream. If you look at screen though, you can see an ad for where we are, but we're at flipboard.com/@created economy. We put all the links that we source and resource and investigate, for each episode will be up there. Ken's creating a magazine for each one. So feel free to head over there if you want the links. I've also shared it out, and we will share the show notes after. Now, the last topic we had was just sort of like how we kind of touched on this a little bit, but sort of how the large platforms are sort of moving. And there was 2 interesting articles this week that came out. Snap is announcing a brand new creator marketplace coming out this month, and Pinterest is testing live streamed events, right? And this ultimately led to what will be the last part of our convo with Bart, actually, when we're talking about social tipping, because this came out of an earlier report from Axios where they were talking about sort of how the major platforms were adopting all these monetization tools and how these features are being normalized, right? And we saw this normalization in the past, right? We saw, think about it, where were stories? It started when stories was just a Snapchat thing, and then now everybody has stories, right?
Right.
And then it started where there was live streaming, and then suddenly one tool had it. Oh, and then suddenly guess what? Twitch had it, and now every tool has it, right? Turns out Discord had audio a long time ago, guys. But in case you didn't know, Clubhouse came out with it as well. And we see now that social audio is becoming another horizontal sort of part of the toolkit. So I think it's really interesting that we see, James is saying he loves seeing you in a tie. But I think it's really interesting to see that these platforms are not just talking about it, but starting to activate it, right? And so what do you think, for example, Pinterest live streaming, right? What's your thoughts on that?
I think I should be surprised, but I'm really not. I mean, at some point, it's almost like you have if you ever built something like a website on a Weebly or a Squarespace or something, or even doing writing a blog post in WordPress, right? You have these little blocks, these modules that you can just tap and presto changeo, it's part of it, right? And it's for social platforms, it's almost like you kind of have to, you're just pulling from the well. It's the same, everyone's pulling from the same well. It's like, okay, all right, let's at this point we'll do live stream. Okay, we'll just tap this box and boom, there you go. We'll now have it, right? It's like, is it necessarily innovation? No, but for companies that are all about banking a lot on creators, on people doing telling their story on these things, on these services, you need to empower them and give them tools to do that, right? And it's ways to help them promote at scale on these platforms, right? And remove that friction as well. One thing that we didn't mention here is like with Twitch, right? Twitch announced this week that they're lowering subscription, like I think their subscription takes by location or something like to that effect. So
the take rates are going down.
I think so. They're localizing. I'll do a quick
There's
look on
a lot
that.
of room in there because it's already. 50%, so.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing, right? I mean, they're making it easier for these. Thank you, Cynthia, for that. Families watching on Facebook. So, but here's the thing, right? I think with Pinterest, it's like they're all about the creator economy. They want people who are crafty, who are building stuff, and they want to be able to further tap into it, right? And it's like, how do you get them further engaged? Because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, if I'm not going to be doing this, where am I going to show off my whatever crafts or products or devices I'm gonna make? I'm gonna go onto YouTube, or I'm gonna go on IG Live, or I'm going to go on to Twitch, right? Yes. And these companies don't want to lose them. So these are all tools, ways to kind of monopolize your attention as a creator and as a user. But at the same time, what it wants to do is to help connect you with more of their platform, right? And I'm looking at this now. It's like, oh yeah, so the Twitch thing is they're lowering subscription prices, allowing streamers to earn more money, right? So it's like they're making it. They're adding these enticements. It's like, hey.
And if folks don't realize this, Twitch last year collected $2 billion from subscriptions, and only 50% of that made it back to creators, right? Because that's their natural take rate. Yeah.
So I mean, think of it this way: like if you're going to go window shopping for something, like for shoes or for furniture, or for clothes or whatever, it's like, what's going to entice you to go to like a Macy's versus a Nordstrom or a Cole Haans, right? I mean, it's like it's going to depend on. Like maybe if they have the shoe in stock, well, if they have the shoe in stock in all the stores, what's that next differentiator beyond the brand, all right? Beyond that experience, it's going to be how much are you paying in price, or what, like the overall compensation or financial repercussions, right? And then that's going to be a big decider for a lot of these things. And of course, these big companies can leverage this. I mean, they just they can just drop it, as opposed to, but then it's like, how do these smaller companies survive? And it's almost like for creators, it's like, should they be supporting small startups versus big tech? On one hand, it's like, where's your audience versus, do you want to see, if you go with like a Clubhouse, you get better take for, better results and appreciation versus going on to,
that's a tough move, Facebook. I guess, though, I know, creators supporting startups alone directly, they still need a lot of reach. At least that's the traditional thinking. But speaking of reach, and as we move into this sort of part of the conversation, everyone raise your hand if you'd like to chat. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to try to bring you into the stream. I see Gabby, you got your hand up. Bart, welcome to the show. We're entering the part, like the second half, like we're trying to stay on time here, but at this part, what we're going to actually be talking about now is really, I think, taking a deeper dive or look at social tipping, which is one of these verticalized sort of monetization features that we saw come out. There's a post over on our blog at the createdeconomy.com that actually talks or says a roundup of sort of like 2 or 3 takes of like what social tipping is really all about. I've got some people here. I'm going to try this. Let's see it. Like what happens. But I'm going to try to bring up someone as a guest. Where'd Gabby go? Let's see. I'm going to bring Gabby up. All right. And Bart, welcome. Do you want to give a quick introduction and say hello?
Hi, I'm Bart Melton. I founded Centipenny. It is a micropayment service. So we're trying to fill in the gap for online payments from basically a penny to $1. Because, well, I mean, when you look at apps and like Apple Pay or Google Pay, you actually have an official $1 minimum. And some others will let you charge a little bit less, but with the fees, it's not feasible. So, and we've moved into the social tipping area with allowing people to tip less than $1. So.
Interesting. Let's see what happens here. By the way, the idea of micro tipping is really interesting. I want to get to that in a second, but I want to just try this out. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah, you let
So
me up already, just to let you know.
can you hear? Can you say? Bart? Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
Ray, is that you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have? Do you want to say hello? And do you have any questions for Bart? By the way.
Not at the moment. I'm just thankful. I'm thankful and grateful for letting me into the space, and I appreciate just the conversation going on right now.
Awesome. Well, this is super interesting. I'm bringing some more friends up in the Twitter Space Society, Clubhouse friends. If you also want to try to get involved, just raise your hand. We'll try to bring you up. Literally no idea what's going to happen. So Bart, let's talk for a second here now.
Okay.
Microtransactions is especially hard, right? Because, like the transaction fees themselves, right? So can you tell us a little bit about, like, I guess, your business model and sort of how do you support this activity? Because I think one of the challenges that historically that's existed, right, is that the processing fees have usually been so high that like micro tipping was like very difficult to sort of
Right.
operate against, and that's why we've seen like these bulk models where you buy coins or tokens or bits or something else. How does your system work?
We're basically like that. We work like a prepaid credit card type of deal. So you buy X number of credits on our system, then you can spend those anywhere you want in any amount. And for on the other end, we don't charge transaction fees. So our minimum tip or payment or whatever is 1/100th of a penny. That's our smallest transaction. And we did that so that it's not just, the US, because in the US, a penny's completely trivial, but in other places it may not be.
Now, when someone's tipping a penny, oh, sorry. But when someone's tipping a penny, what is the inherent value? Like, let's not the financial value, but like, what's going on? What's the psychology of that?
Well, so Twitter's a great example of this. How many tweets do you think that you see the tweet itself is really worth $1 to you? Versus
Very, very little.
Very, very little, but it's the minimum you can tip somebody. So now you're left with the conundrum. Okay, either, if you really support this person, you're going to go through the process of, taking the time to log into another system, leave $1 tip, but now you're left with the question, okay, when do I tip again? Do I wait a month? Now do I have to remember the last time I tipped? Or, is there a certain threshold of before, it kind of builds up to that value again? On the flip side, if you had the option, say in Twitter, that there was a button that said tip a penny right beside the like button, and it was just one click, boom, you're done. How often would you bang that 1 cent button? I mean, if you're in the US, like say a penny's trivial, who cares? I'd be going down through there, if anybody dropped the slightest bit of wisdom, I'd be like, bang, bang, like tip, boom, done, move on.
So it's like a monetary like kind of.
Well, exactly. The problem we have right now, because of transaction fees and things like that, with kind of a $1 minimum, you have to support the creator themselves, and so as a creator, it's easy to monetize real fans. They're looking for ways to give you money, or at least oftentimes. But on the flip side of that, how do you get casual users, the people who are there just for, that read your one tweet, watch your one video? They don't have a way to support that one piece of content. And that's kind of the disconnect we have right now, because, they talk about the 1-9-90, the 1% of true fans, the 9% of is casually engaged fans, and then the 90% who are just lurkers. And right now, you really only monetize the 1% with tipping models. And so, that's what we're trying to, at Centipenny, we're trying to fill in, is that the ability to come in and say, what, I support this one piece of content, or, I'm a casual user, I want to tip the level that's comfortable for me. And it's, but on the flip side of that, if you're tipping a penny, it's got to be very fast.
Right.
You don't fill out a credit card form to tip a penny.
And does someone buy $1 worth with you? Is that sort of the
yeah?
minimum?
So for us, the way the first time you buy with us, it's $1 is the minimum. You can buy more if you want, but it's a $1 minimum, and that's kind of as a try it. try it out, see if you like it type of rate. And then after that, there's a $3 minimum
Okay. Interesting.
to refill. And
Can I speak on that?
Yeah. Who's that? Ray?
Ray the Immortal. That's my ad name. So what he's saying is correct. And when it comes to tipping, we have had to, find out different various ways to get tipped, especially on Twitter now, because I've had a 29.
Did we lose Ray?
Yeah, I think so, because it suddenly went very quiet.
Yeah.
So,
Oh no, did we lose Ray?
Yeah, I think so.
No, can you hear
Sorry.
me?
Oh, Ray.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Right
there.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No
So
worries.
yeah, so we've had to go through different channels to get tips, but if we had a dedicated button, even on Twitter, where followers can tip, I don't think they would have an issue about the fees. I think it does draw down to most of the time how much do they support the person that they're supporting.
So is it more?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So Ray, is it more? Are you saying? Just want to make sure I'm clear. Are you saying that it's more about the people when are tipping? They're tipping more about the creator as opposed to the content that they're giving money to?
It can be like I've seen instances of both. Like for myself personally, it's a double thing. Like I give valuable pieces of information, so they'll tip me because of that. But ultimately, a lot of people have been following me for years, and they just want to tip me just because they know who I am as a person.
Mm.
Interesting. By the way, I see someone here, Isaac. Oh, Hustling. I'm just going to introduce Isaac because I know he's here. Isaac Hayes, awesome. I met him a couple of times here on Clubhouse. I see him in our Twitter space. I'd love for him to be able to chat after Hustling because Isaac has launched Fanbase, which has I forgot. He'll explain. There's a few levels inside of his product as well. Hustling, did you have something as well?
Just wanted to introduce my man Isaac. That's all.
Oh, all right. Good. Isaac, how are you? Welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Fanbase.
Thanks for having me, and thanks, Arceline, for inviting me. So Fanbase is a social media platform that I founded that allows any user to monetize their content via subscription and virtual currency we call love. And we have numerous verticals on the platform, from photo, video, long-form content, live, stories, and audio rooms, like Spaces and Clubhouse. Everything is monetized for every single user the moment that they sign up. And what we're seeing is a very transactional community that loves supporting each other regardless of, what you're posting. Just even if you're on stages, you're receiving revenue from getting love. Love is the virtual currency of Fanbase. Every love is about half a penny. Users purchase that love through the Apple App Store and soon the Google Play Store, and you use that to love posts. You can also love someone during a live. You can love what someone is saying on an audio stage. You can also use love to unlock exclusive content on the platform, because things are paywalled through subscription. But let's say you're not comfortable committing to a full subscription to someone, you can unlock one piece of their content for 100 loves, which is the equivalent of about 50 cents to the creator or the user. And that adds up very, very fast. We're seeing really good numbers as far as the amount of revenue that people are making, especially in audio rooms and live. We do not throttle down content. We want every person to have as much visibility on the platform as possible. I did a live demo the other day with Hostline. I went live for about 40 minutes, pretending to DJ, but I think we had about 138 viewers total, and I made about $147.
Whoa.
And it was really incredible that I made that much revenue, that fast with that small group of people.
Bart and Isaac, I have that you guys raise up a very interesting point. Is well, Bart. First question: Are you does your company have a digital currency, or is it just like literally I'm use my credit card and
No,
give you dollars?
we basically have a digital currency. We call them Centipennies.
Okay.
Because they're company name. It's all 1/100th of a penny. So yeah, easiest company name in the world.
So that raises up the second point, because at one point, and Isaac, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts as well in terms of the love currency. Great currency name, by the way. It's how does this, and we know many friends and people that have their own different types of currencies as well. Like Francine Hardaway has Karma. Jeremiah Yeung has his JWoww, is it? I think his currency.
So you're talking about the sort of creator coins.
The creator coins, right?
Rally, yeah.
Rally, yeah. So at some point, do we wind up having this all be like foreign currency? Like, you know what? It's like a dollar the same as a peso versus the yen? You know, Bart, is your, like, how do I as a creator, do I need to trade in all of these type of currencies depending on based on the platform that I'm on?
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things right now. You kind of have two different approaches, because if you're, Twitch has what, Twitch bits, is it?
Yes.
Which is kind of the same thing. They're a penny a piece. But the problem is, if you're a creator and you've got a Twitch channel, you've got a YouTube page, you've got a YouTube channel, you've got, your own site that embeds your YouTube, etc. Those Twitch bits only work there. Mm-hmm. So then as soon as they go to your YouTube channel, now, they're having to buy into another one. So then you have the question of, on the one hand, it's great that these big companies like Twitter add monetization. And their tools are actually, third-party tools. But the ones like, say, YouTube or Twitch or Facebook has their little likes, is that then your audience can't follow you. So then the question is it better to have a third party like Centipenny or Patreon or someone like that, where you can link in and have a single tipping platform, or one or two, or maybe even three, to appeal to a different audience, but they can follow you across platforms. And so then you say, should platforms try to work with these third parties, integrate, if they really want to do, good creative monetization? And that's an open question.
Yeah. Actually, Isaac, I'm curious. So a couple things to note. If you go to my Twitter account at Gregarious, I did have a post about social tipping. I shared out a link also to the roundup, and I'll share the graphic here for anyone who's watching. And one of the things are the trends that we sort of see sort of more emerging, and it's early in this trend, I think, but things like Twitter, Clubhouse, what they've and Spotify, what they're doing is a sort of a pass through. They're not actually like implementing, say, like their actually own tipping infrastructure. I guess in some ways, Isaac, I'm curious, do you think or imagine potentially like being able to bring love into the outside world sort of as another currency for others to leverage as well?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it depends on the growth of our platform. Mm-hmm. But what really has me excited is the scalability of that currency in places like live and places like audio. Like, we've had users make an enormous amount of revenue in small amounts of time with very small audiences. Like, if I can make $147 with 138 total viewers, then in theory I can make, $1.4 million with 1.3 million viewers just going live for 45 minutes. If I had 1.3 million people viewing me on live at one time, and that's the scalability of virtual currency on platforms like this, especially with people that have a really big fan base, really great brands, really great artists, very popular people, very engaging creators and users. So when you think about it, the amount of revenue that's going to be generated for creators using virtual currency, I think is just, it's going to be massive.
What are some of the things Sorry, go ahead, Bart.
Hold on.
Hold on a sec, guys. I just got, wait, who's talking?
Celine.
Oh, Celine, go ahead, please.
I do want to introduce something that could be a whole separate discussion. Is something that's unique that Isaac is doing is he's allowing the casual creator or user to invest in the actual company and buy shares. So even if they're not creating, they could benefit from the whole creator economy on the platform by owning shares in the company using the startup engine. So that's something separate, but I just also want to introduce that's another way to generate revenue at a non-creator space, if you will.
I can speak to that a little bit. So basically, what the Reg CF regulation that allows anybody to raise capital for their company, regardless of their net worth or annual income, wipes out that accredited investor rule. And so it gives opportunity for people that never had a chance to invest in TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram to invest in a social media platform that is scalable and is really actually in the exact same place as a seed funded company that Twitter and Instagram and TikTok all were at some point. And so what I understand is that the users are what make the platform go. They're the engine. They're the economic engine of social media, right? And I tell people that if you're not making money off your social media directly into your pocket, not that someone pays you to promote posts, but if the platform isn't paying you, then you are the product. So on Fanbase, you are not the product on Fanbase. Every single user can make revenue. So on our raise on Start Engine, we raised $3.3 million of a $3.5 million raise. And people can buy shares into Fanbase in the seed round and own part of the company. And that's great because users can actually sit on Fanbase all day long as owners as well. Where a lot of these other platforms, we give our clapbacks to Twitter, our dances to TikTok, our conversations to Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, and our content, long form, photo and video to Facebook and Instagram, but no one is an actual owner of the company or has a chance to really own part of the platform. So that's very significant, and I take pride in that, especially as a Black founder, because I also know the significant value that African American culture, Black culture brings to social media platforms. So I'm really proud that anybody can own shares in this company and go along for the ride as we continue to scale.
On that note, like Bart, I'm sorry, Bart, as we think about like with Centipenny, like we're talking about like social tipping back at the beginning of this conversation. Yeah. Like what's the roadmap for your company beyond like even the next year or two? I mean, besides just helping to facilitate tips, like we heard what Isaac's doing with Fanbase. Like, are there other updates that you're planning on doing to kind of really scale Centipenny?
Yeah, so we actually didn't start as a tipping platform. We have pivoted into that. We started as a paywall for publishing because publishing faces a lot of the same hurdles. Getting people to subscribe is a big hurdle, even when they offer, $1 for 3 months or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, trying to get people to do pay per article, there's a lot of people who are asking for it and publishers just don't want to do it. So, at least not right now. So we pivoted then. We were also just we can do general transactions from, like say, 1/100th of a penny up to whatever, realistically $1, just to try to fill in that gap because, if you're, say, an up and coming musician, you want to sell your music, but you don't necessarily, you want to sell it for 50 cents a download, just to try to gen up some users or, some fans and things like that. Well, we make that possible. Whereas, basically anywhere else, you're stuck at the dollar level. And then we moved into a tipping platform. We're going to have gaming API coming out that allow for, a lot of the indie creators. The big gaming companies have their own virtual currencies and things like that. But if you're an indie developer, you don't have time for that. because I can tell you, creating a virtual currency takes time.
Yeah.
It's not something you can whip out overnight.
Don't talk to the guys at Rally. They'll tell you.
Yeah. So, that's, so that's one thing that we're going to move into, and some various things along those lines. But basically, we're trying to, if somebody's like, hey, can you do this with us? We'll be like, sure, we can. We now kind of have a platform to be able to build out, and anything from up to $1. If somebody wants us to do something, we'll be more than happy to fill it in.
Yeah, this idea of micro patronage is very interesting. And by the way, I do want to just lasso what Haseline and Isaac were saying, because I do think, what Isaac expressed is really a sentiment that really existed in sort of that attention economy, like sort of this previous generation, right? Like where you were the product because you were providing the data, you were providing sort of the attention, the eyeballs to monetize. And maybe for a future episode, Ken, we can have Isaac and Haseline back with us to talk about this. Because I do think we're moving into partially this ownership economy. And I think tipping is, in a lot of ways, we talked about this in a previous podcast about this, but in some ways it's a gateway drug to deeper involvement, right? Like it could be to sort of subscriptions, right? Which I think is a great opportunity for most creators. It could be to packaged or digital goods, right? And as Isaac is saying, it could be actually towards investment in the actual entity and its sort of forward progress and sort of its forward futures as well, right? So I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities here. This space is growing so fast. It's why we decided to create a show around it, because these topics, we probably have to revisit them like over and over again. And there's so many amazing founders, creators, entrepreneurs and businesses and brands, all like sort of sitting around the edge of this pool, trying to figure out how do we make this thing go forward, right? In a meaningful and powerful way, and I think like that's ultimately where our opportunity lies. So, Bart, I think, as we're coming up on time, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. And it was kind of last minute.
Anytime.
We've only been planning this show for like 2.5 days, 3 days. So we did get a website up. We did manage to stream and make a mess on 5 platforms instead of, the normal 1 or 2. Thank you for your patience today, everyone, by the way. And I'm going to tuck you back in, Bart. Thanks, just as Ken and I say goodbye. And I will make sure to include a link to your site as well in the notes. Yeah, Ken, I think Experiment, sort of managed to work its way through. I didn't hear any questions from Clubhouse, by the way. So if anyone in Clubhouse wants, just to make sure we touched everywhere, by all means, raise your hand. But I do think this has been an experiment. We are trying to live and utilize these tools ourselves to further show and demonstrate sort of what's possible. This has been an interesting experiment because we literally were streaming on 5 platforms simultaneously, and some of them where they can't see us and some of them where they can. But we are putting together this stuff. All of our show notes, once again, just I will flash some links here, but I'll mention them also. If you want links to anything, all the articles, Ken and I look through about 20, 30 articles a week. We put them into our Flipboard magazine. You can find that over at flipboard.com/@createdeconomy. The easiest place, though, to find access to all the stuff we're doing is actually at our full blog, our long form content, and our written pieces, which is over at createdeconomy.com, createdeconomy.com. And of course, if you want to subscribe to show updates, get on our calendar, get alerts when we go live, head over to Zealous, which is my startup actually, where we're helping live streamers try to monetize their live activity. And that's over at created.show. It's another great place to find out about all the upcoming content. It has some more links and some new features coming soon, which we hopefully will be releasing and staging here. Ken, I don't know how you feel. I feel exasperated. I don't know which buttons not to press at this point.
Press them all. Just press them all. Smash them all.
I was trying to mute myself because my keyboard is one of those damn mechanical keyboards. And I think that's when I muted Ray. I'm learning, I promise, but we were recording.
Okay, so do you see where like the bottom left corner is?
No. The problem is that I have like all these sources coming in. So if I mute there, you won't hear me either. So I have to keep my mic on over here, but I wanted to type something. So we'll figure it out. I think I know what to do now. In about a month or so, we're going to release the podcast. We're waiting to pile up our first few episodes before we do that. But I will have a transcript available of all the notes from here. Right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Bart from Centipenny.com. We will definitely include a link in our Flipboard magazine as well as on our website and our show notes. You guys have all been amazing. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please just send me a DM, send Ken a DM at mention at Created Economy on Twitter. Find me on somewhere, find one of us somewhere, go to our website, subscribe to the newsletter. Let us know. We'd love to have you. Every week, we want to have either a creator or an entrepreneur building something amazing in this space, hopefully more, right, with us. Obviously, your questions are welcome and we enjoy having them. So by all means, next time, feel free to come through and raise your hand. Appreciate that as well. If you are on Clubhouse, we have a club called the Creative Economy. If you're listening right now, make sure you click that little green house and subscribe, become a member or follower of our club over there, because we will always syndicate this show back to Clubhouse as well. All right, my hair's on fire. This has been a lot of fun. I already have like 30 links ready for next week. So we'll be back next week.
Thank you for having us, by the way.
Thank you guys. I appreciate
Thanks
all
for
of you
up.
who are participating. By all means, send me a DM if you were voiced in this, if you said something or spoke. I'll try to remember everyone I can. But what I want to do is make sure we get you mentioned in the show notes as well, so that everyone knows who was speaking and what you were doing.
Yes, I followed you already as well.
I appreciate that. And yeah, we got to figure out better rules. Like, because the thing is, when people start talking, I'm like, are you on Clubhouse or are you over here? Oh man, this is a lot of fun. But thanks for the experiment, Husseline. I'm gonna need your help, man. We're gonna have to be doing this, working on this together. All right, everybody.
No problem.
I appreciate it. Peace and love. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. Have a great one.
All right.
Thank you.
One love.